Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. Let me take you through a short story with as much objectivity as possible. My story today is about Star Citizen of all things, and the idea of releasing features in such a sequence that they make the most logical sense. No matter when the developers decide to release a new idea or feature, it seems that there's always a heated discussion and a bit of drama. These are the addition of prison, changes to insurance timers, law bounty balance, and most recently, the relaxation of the Armistice zones. I want to start my story all the way back in patch 2.0 on the 11th of December 2015, which is 5 years ago. Patch 2.0 was a big one. It was the first time we could explore what was being called the baby persistent universe and our first glimpse into what the game would become. Up to that time, all we had was Arena Commander, the hangar module, and a very small chunk of Area 18 called the social module. The baby persistent universe was particularly mind-blowing as we had only seen it demoed for the first time that year at CitizenCon, and it was actually quite exciting for it to be pushed so soon into our hands to test. 2.0 was centrally located around Crusader Planet, and our starting hab was Port Olisar. For us veterans of the franchise, there is and will always be a special connection to that place, so I'm actually curious to see what the developers have planned for it. Port O was, and I believe it's still the best place for a new player to start, which is unfortunate because it's no longer a starting option. Internally, it's very easy to navigate and made the new player experience very easy and straightforward. There are no trains or buses, there's no alleys to get lost in, there are only 2 floors, and it's basically a donut. It worked super well because new players could see all of it in about 3 minutes, and naturally they would find their way to the ASOP terminals dead center in the middlemost room. They would call up their ship, exit through the airlock, and then be stunned by what they saw next. Remember your first impressions of what you saw, because I know my first impression was probably exactly the same as yours. This was the first time that I got a true sense of scale for space. The airlock opens, you walk out, you turn right, you walk down a corridor, eventually that corridor ends, and exactly there, you see the rings rotating, you see your ship on the pad, and then it takes a couple seconds, and then you realize the rest. Crusader, a gas giant, sensational and epic in scale, jaw-dropping, and this was my first experience in 2.0. I take it for granted now, and Port Olisar seems to be very small, but that first impression is still impressive. The station came equipped with its first Armistice zone, which we were told was a placeholder that would go away once we had a more fleshed out law and security mechanic. As law is now evolving and becoming fleshed out, the zones are leaving us, and as usual, when things change and new things are added, players will always find a way to test and use the changes for either good or bad or both. When a player calls up their ship and it's delivered to the pad, the newest thing has become that someone just destroys the ship for no true gameplay reason before they even get a chance to get to it. Whatever your stance is on PvP in a sandbox, it's pretty hard to think of a valid reason why you would just blow up an empty ship other than sheer boredom. I'm sure it's funny for the one that's camping the pads, but it's super frustrating as we also recently have extended to longer wait times to reclaim the ships. If that was my only ship and my only game package was a Connie, that action would have ruined my game session, and there's nothing I could really do about it. Stuck waiting for 30 or more minutes to get it back, which is a shame because it's an alpha test and we actually want players play testing the build. All of that could be its own video with those who say that it's fine, as it's an activity that's happening within the rules of the game, and others on the other side consider this nothing more than ruining the player's experience, alienating that person who really wanted nothing more than just to test the new patch. Some had commented that the solution is to eventually migrate to a fully closed hangar, like what we see at the newer landing zones. This will give the player more than enough time to get into their seats, fire up the systems, and allow the shields to charge up. Once they're ready, they call up and ask permission to leave, opening the doors, thus finally exposing themselves to whatever comes next, but at least they're ready. That's a good solution, but the reason that I mentioned my first experience in 2.0 all the way at the start of the video was because closed-in hangars won't give you that experience of awe. To achieve the best of both worlds, there was also a suggestion that the newly exposed ships could be protected from damage by the station systems, a sort of respawn protection timer if you will. The pad itself could provide a shield, ensuring that the player could get in, power up, and be ready. Once the player requested permission to leave or lifted up once, the clamps and shields would be disabled, giving them the same protection as a closed hangar, but more diversity in our universe. This could also even work to protect people arriving at the location if they had a clean crime stat. Once again, request permission, touchdown, and once landed, their ship is locked and protected. Small local surface outposts may be able to extend the service as well. However, as they're not main hubs, the players more than likely wouldn't expect any protection from them anyways. So the point of the video is to generate discussion and get feedback from you, the community, about this or perhaps other ways of achieving the same thing differently. You might think it's fine the way it is because player protection should come from teamwork and escorting. Perhaps closed-in hangars are actually the way to go in the future, and perhaps it's perfectly fine for the local outposts to offer no protection because it's just part of the gameplay. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Can you please comment your comments in the comments, as I genuinely love to read what your thoughts are. Different opinions and ideas offer a unique perspective and feedback here, and the feedback here may also offer the developers an idea that they haven't actually considered. Thanks very much for spending your time with me. As a public service announcement, the channel traffic has been much lower as I'm preparing to leave for a 6-month deployment. You can imagine what it would be like to anticipate all of the things that need to be done, such as storing cars, packing gear, finishing paperwork, and of course, spending time with the family. But I think this is funny. Spread the word, as I'm going to continue to make content throughout my time away, which should be pretty fun to watch. Fly safe. Thanks for your support and understanding. I'll see you in the verse.